Hello, everybody. Today we're going to look at a little pen I just received. I won it on eBay about a week ago, and I bought it from a seller in Japan, and it came FedEx, and it was here in essentially a week, maybe even just a little less than a week. I was very surprised. Anyway, um, so what do we have here? Well, it's a bit of a frankenpen, and it's a bit of an interesting pen. So the cap, and as I say, it's a frankenpen. It's essentially parts from two pens. The cap is a platinum. Platinum logo is right here, and platinum clip, very serviceable. And the nib and the body is a pilot. I'm going to say it was Pilot Elite from the 1960s. So somebody had this pen and they lost the cap, and they had a pilot, they had a platinum pen and they lost the body and they had a cap, or they just jury rigged something. Or somewhere out there, there's a platinum pen with a pilot cap. That could happen too. Somebody got their caps all mixed up, because surprisingly, I knew when I bought it that it had the wrong cap or the wrong body. And I actually thought I would have to replace the cap. But oddly enough, it fits perfectly. It's almost exact, and you can feel the capping mechanism holding it very firm, and it feels almost like it was made for this pen. And at that time, these are little pocket pens. And at that time, Sailor, Platinum, and Pilot were all making pens of this design that were very similar and very beautiful little pens. Now you're looking at this and you're thinking, well, that looks like this pen, the Pilot E95S. And, well, it does, because it preceded this pen. And the Pilot E95S and the Pilot Elite of today are essentially tributes to the 1960s classic Pilot, Platinum, Sailor pocket pens. Now, let's take a little look at them. As I say, this is a combination of two pens. And you notice I'm going to show you a few little other things. So it's designed to be posted. It's a small pen, and when you post it, it becomes a large pen. And the same with the Pilot E95S. And when you look at them, they're almost identical in many ways. Even the nibs are very similar. Now, these are two different nibs, of course. This is a gold nib and a modern nib. And the nib I have on the vintage one is a script nib. And that's essentially the reason I bought this pen. Now, the modern E95S, this is the classic nib that you'll get on it. I think you can get an extra fine, fine, and medium, but there's no real variation of the nibs other than the size. Now, it's a different story with the vintage pens. I've seen what they would call, say, manifold nib. I've seen signature nibs, and I've seen a script nib, and I've seen just regular nibs that would be listed as fine, medium, extra fine, things like that. And they're all slightly different in appearance and usage. Now, a script nib, as far as I understand, was designed to be a nib that would withstand rapid and prolonged script. So you would be writing fast. If you were writing fast for some reason for a long period of time, say in a meeting and you're taking extensive notes, the script pen was meant to be able to, keep up with your writing. So the feed and everything would be a good flowing feed and things like that. So anyway, so let's talk about the pen. So it has a script nib. That's the reason I wanted it. I've been sort of looking around for a script nib. I bid on a few others, never quite won the bidding. And essentially because this one was a frankenpen, I was able to get this pen for a very reasonable price, actually quite cheap. Most expensive part of the pen was the shipping, oddly enough. So the nib, 18 karat gold, pilot nib, script, as you can see. I don't know if you can make that out, but it says script on it. 18 karat gold. I would say it's probably fine, but then again, Japanese pens, their nibs are much finer than, say, the Western mediums or fines or extra fines, right? So it writes like a fine. And it's a very smooth nib. The nib didn't need any work. It was in excellent shape. The body had some micro scratches on it, and I used, when I got it, the body wasn't as shiny as it is now. It had essentially some micro scratches all over it from use, because it's from the 60s. It's an older pen. But I was using, I took some material I had and I polished the pen up with using Anderson Pen's microgloss, and that brought up a nice shine to the pen, and it looks quite nice now. The gold cap band in here, or the clutch ring, was in excellent shape. And essentially, except for the micro scratches and a bit of wear, the body of the pen is in excellent shape. There's no cracks. There's no, little dings or anything to it. It's in excellent shape. Difference was the cap. So the pilot is a plastic body, and I believe the cap, the original cap, would have been plastic also. The platinum, on the other hand, is a metal cap, black paint over metal. And when I got this, as you look at it now, you see these little starburst patterns on it, and that is not original. Or essentially, where each of those starbursts is, if you look at the center, those little marks were all across this cap. And I was trying to figure, so there was little chips, right? And essentially, I didn't do much other than, I didn't change the centers, but I've made like a little flower pattern or a little starburst pattern around the chips. I was trying to figure out, should I replace the cap? Should I paint the cap? And then I just thought, why don't I do a little bit of engraving? I'm not an engraver by any means. I don't think I did a particularly great job, but I think it looks a lot better than it did. It just makes it look a little fun. And it's, personalized. And it didn't take long, because I already had all these little chips all through the cap. And what I used is an old engraving tool that I've had in, I can't remember where I got this, but I've had it for a very long time. It's used for printmaking. Say you're cutting a copper plate or, a plexiglass plate. There's a little diamond tip on this, and it's good for, inscribing lines into metal. And I just took it and I just did a little bit of scratching and made these little patterns. And I think it turned out pretty well. The clip is a little bit worn. There's some, the plating is worn off in places. The band is also, showing wear and tear, but that's fine. This is an old pen, and for all that, it's in good shape. And I think actually now that I've tinkered with it, and fixed it up a little bit, I'm just going to leave it like it is, because you know what? It's an old pen, and it's been through the wars or whatever. It's been like used and abused and loved and dropped and lost, reassembled. And so I'm going to just leave it the way it is. It has a little bit of a story to it, and it still works perfectly fine. I'm going to move that out of the way. So a script nib, 14 karat. This pen, is designed to be posted. If you look at my hands, they're not overly large, but I can't really hold that comfortably, but it posts really nicely, and it all joins into the into this band here. That holds the cap in place. It fits very firmly, and it's a very smooth writing pen. A quick brown fox. And I have Pilot Arashizuku Konpeki in here, I believe. Now, one thing I've noticed about this nib, it's not a flex nib in any means, but it feels to me like a soft nib. There's just a little bit of spring to it and softness. And it's a very smooth nib. You get a little bit of line variation, and you get some sheening going on too, which is really nice. So the downstrokes are a little wider than the cross strokes. So there's a bit of variation in your script. I wonder if that's typical of all script pens, script nibs. If you know, let me know. And actually, if you know anything more about script nibs, I would love to hear from you. And if also, what other nibs did the vintage Pilot Elite have? What other nibs did the vintage Platinum have? What was the name of the Platinum, actually? That's another thing I'd like to know. So anyway, I'm very happy with this pen. I actually expected to have to do a bit more work on the mechanics, cleaning the nib or smoothing the nib, but the nib doesn't need any work. I flushed the pen out, washed it out, got rid of, there wasn't much ink in it already, so just a bit of time just washing it out. Put the ink in it, and actually, this is the other interesting thing. Probably at the time they used converters. At the time they probably didn't use converters. They probably used cartridges. But the modern Pilot, this is the Pilot 40, fits perfectly into these old vintage pens. I've had that experience with a couple other vintage Pilots that I've had or used. So it's very good. But anyway, so there you have it. Lovely little pen, lots of fun. I hope you liked the video. And if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new around here, I invite you to subscribe to the channel, and I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.